people, count back 150 years, and take half of that number, which is 3 billion. We add another 150 years and take half of the previous figure. Keep adding 150 and take a half. As we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we see that after 4,500 years, there would only be 5.5 people left. Whoa! What happened 4,500 years ago? Well, according to the Bible, there was a worldwide flood that cleared the whole earth, and only 8 people survived. Just think, with 8 people and 4,500 years of time, we could have the Earth's population today of over 6 billion people. It agrees with what the Bible says, indicates a young Earth. Now, from the side of evolution, we have this picture from National Geographic, which is of a Homo sapiens. Man knows. And they say it's 92,000 years old. Now, let me tell you something. When we find a fossil, any place, I promise you not a single fossil comes out with a tag that says, "Hi, I'm the fossil of a Homo sapiens and I'm 92,000 years old." No, people, according to their beliefs, put the names and their dates. As we'll see in a little bit, a lot of the dating methods are thoroughly unreliable. But let's be generous. Let's say that the first human couple lived 45,000 years ago. One man, one woman, modern human beings. Year 0. 150 years go by, now we're 4. We go to 300 years, now we're 8. Follow out that calculation, how many would we be today? Wow, we'd be standing chest against back, shoulder against shoulder, arms upon legs upon shoulders, miles up in the air, covering the whole surface of the earth. We are not that many people. We do not find that many human artifacts, remains, or bones. It indicates a young earth, just like the Bible says. Now, some in my audience will be saying, "Fine, John, that's all well and good, but carbon-14 proves that everything is really, really old." Okay, let's talk about carbon-14. Now, if you don't know about carbon-14, just hang on for a minute. Let me answer this question for some other people, and then we'll get back to other stuff that maybe is more interesting for you. First of all, how is carbon-14 made? Carbon-14 is made in that a cosmic ray hits nitrogen-14 and changes into carbon-14. Carbon is normally carbon-12. Carbon-14 is unstable. We call it radioactive, in that it's unstable and gives off an emission that eventually reverts back to nitrogen-14. Now, all living things are made up of carbon, and some is carbon-14. Clams, algae, fish, birds, trees, animals, humans, all have lots of carbon, and some is carbon-14. While these things are living, there's a balance. But when there's death, there's a loss of carbon-14. The idea is if we could find out how much carbon-14 is left in something, we could know how long it's been dead. That's what the theory proposes. Now, they suppose lots of things, one of which, for example, is how much carbon-14 was there 2,000 years ago. We don't know. We weren't there. What we do know is things that we know their age, carbon-14 fails to give the right age. For example, there was a seal that had been dead for 30 years. When its carcass was tested with carbon-14, gave an age of death of 4,600 years. A seal recently killed gave an age of 1,300 years. The bark from a living tree gave an age of 10,000 years. It was alive. The shell from living snails gave an age of 27,000 years. Some of their membrane and tissue dated at 3,000 years. From the other extreme, we have coal from Russia that's supposedly 300 million years old, gave an age of 1,680 years. Carbon-14 is not reliable for dating things that used to live. On the other extreme, we have a process for dating rocks. This is called potassium argon. In 1801, a volcano in Hawaii had an eruption, and the lava flowed and touched the water, stayed in there, solid there. They took those samples 167 years later to see how long it had been since the volcano erupted. We already know, 167 years. But with potassium argon, we got dates between 100 million years to 3 billion years ago that it erupted. And so, as I mentioned, for things that we do know, we find that that also is unreliable. Also in the Grand Canyon, we have lava that has flown over the edge of the canyon, over the rocks, as well as a layer down below that's called the Cardenas, which is volcanic rock. Those two were tested. Obviously, the one that's flowed over the side of the canyon is the much younger lava flow. The one that's way down in one of the rock layers, the Cardenas layer, is obviously much older. But in almost all of the testing that was done, the older one tested out millions of years younger than the younger one. And the younger one tested out millions of years older than the older one. And so consistently we've seen that it's not reliable. The Earth is young. Some say, well, you need a long period of time to make fossils. Well, there's lots of fossils out there. Here's one of my favorite ones. This is a cowboy boot. This was found in West Texas. And at the right-hand image here, we see that the poor cowboy broke his leg, and his leg and foot stayed inside the boot. They did a scan of the toe section. All 5 toe bones are in there. It's all fossilized. This was found in the 1980s. The flip side shows the design that's on the boot. So they went looking in West Texas, the different cowboy boot factories, and found that a factory said, yeah, that's our boot. That's a design that we used in the 1950s. In 30 years, this whole thing was fossilized. Not millions of years, but a very short period of time. This water wheel of wood had water flowing over it. In a matter of 60 years, the wood became petrified wood. It became rock. 60 years, petrified wood, not millions of years. This bottle, encased in rock with a ceramic jar on the left-hand side, was 130 years in the bottom of the ocean in a ship that had crashed and wrecked off the coast of Australia. And yet, because of natural elements there, rock had actually formed around the ceramic jar and the bottle in only 130 years, not millions of years. A miner dropped his hat by accident into a water hole inside of a mine. He couldn't fish it out. Somebody fished it out 50 years later. It had been turned into a fossilized hat, as hard as a helmet that a motorcyclist would wear. 50 years, fossilized hat. These pliers were found on the edge of a beach, thoroughly encrusted with built up of sand and rock, all fossilized around these pliers. Even a piece of shell is still seen here. Fossilized pliers in very short period of time, not millions of years. In 1886 in New Zealand, there was a volcano that erupted and did a lot of destruction to the surrounding communities. As time went by, people went back into these areas to dig and see what they could find, things of any kind of worth. They found this bowler cap, which basically is made out of cloth, but this is now turned into rock. Fossilized hat in just a few years, not millions of years. Now, if you'd like to have a novelty for a snack, how about a petrified ham sandwich? Here's the petrified ham turned to rock, again, in a very short period of time, not millions of years. And also there's a bag of wheat flour turned to rock also. Even the stitching could still be seen on the bag, but fossilized in a very short period of time. These beautiful gems are called opals. And according to evolutionary theory, it takes millions of years to make opals. Now, there's opal mines in a place in Australia, and a opal dealer went and just took some of the powder from these mining areas, placed it in different jars with different acids and chemicals. He is making opals in a matter of months. These opals are so fine, so beautiful, that even the opal dealers cannot tell the difference between them and ones that are dug out of the mine. Even more so,